Today, we are lucky to have with us an experienced person who has worked in many different fields. We have with us Nikhil Srivastava, and let's listen to him. Over to you, Nikhil.
Honored to be on your platform. So while talking, and I want to speak more about how I have been, and assuming that this journey could be a journey of many other people who are working in social sector. So if you are someone who is into the social sector, into the development sector, and or if you're willing or wanting to transition to this sector from a different one, my story could be one relating to you.
Okay.
So what broadly I would be talking about. So I started, I did my MBA in finance, and like a typical finance graduate or postgraduate, as in India we call it, I got into consulting role and also into research. But after working for 2 years in that, I felt I should be working into development sector. Now, this call is very difficult and is something which is not very natural, because in my class, I'm the only one who has moved into social sector, if I may say. Let me say what I was thinking at that time. So my thoughts were not very organized. I was thinking multiple things, but now when I look back at those things, and now that I've read the book Ikigai, I realize it's not in line with what the book talks about. Things, and I think it will help me in organizing what I want to say about this. So the and but there are 4 elements, like what you love, what you need, and what you're good at. So I was thinking these very questions. I was not very sure. I was thinking in a different way. I was asking maybe in a different language, but basically I was asking these things: what I'm good at, what I love, what world needs, what I could be paid for. So choices, I thought, I realized, and this was my assumption earlier, that in terms of payment, say for example, development sector will be something which will pay less than regular mainstream finance or marketing or sales business. I wanted to work, but I was willing to compromise a bit. But I've got a thing to say in this particular thing, that eventually when I got into the segment and when I started working, I did realize it's not a less paying all the time. It is less paying for a lot of people, but it pays enough. Who is in the sector and who is professional and is willing to work according to the rules of the game. So if you are best marketeer in the country, of course you will be paid a lot more than the best social sector worker in the country. But the worker will be paid a lot. So there are consultants who easily 1,000 or 500 to $1,000 a day for their consultancy. So, it could be very meager, wherein social sector workers at the ground level could be paid 10,000 rupees per month. Either job, it varies, and if one is willing to work in different ways, is agile enough, one could earn enough. So and my experience in that, at that time I was willing to compromise. I even told my wife, okay, I'm in development sector, I'm going to that. I will not be able to buy a Mercedes maybe, but we'll have a car for sure. So, so this is, and she still married me, so it's still I paid off. I'm saying it's not something which is dumb enough, but it's still dumb. But and the second thing is that what you love is, so this question of what you love is very tricky, because it's like a bug of love, and in most times you don't know the reason why you love a person, or so it's very difficult to analyze logically. But my definition is that maybe I'm too overconfident or too self, um, you know, self-centered, that I felt I could change the world.
Yeah.
So, and this is something which maybe a young person would feel, and only a young person can feel. But now I know it's not possible with this body or figure. So, what I have learned is this, that it's world, but this is what I love. And even if I have to go 20 years back, 15 years back, being the choice, I would marry the same person or do the same domain. Which two things which I were thinking. Uh, then it is about what the world needs. So this need question is very clear and easy to answer in my case, because having worked in development sector, I clearly see there's a lot of people who are willing to work with passion, who are committed, who are connected with the ground, who are having logical and analytical reasoning. But wisdom that people in other domain also, when they grow up, they feel the same about their own domain, that there is a dearth of talent in their own. So marketing or finance person will say there is always a dearth of good CAs. So always a dearth of good development sector professionals. And if you think as a professional, someone who can bring or add value to anything that we put ourselves into, then it is, and development sector is made for us or not. The, one question which was easy for me, when I was, as I was saying earlier, it was a matter of finding out how important I am. Say, I wanted to put myself into something which the world needs the most. So at that time, I felt the world needs the most. Not very sure which sector I was going to work in, but these are things which EEKI tells us, and thinking at the time, and this is what I've realized over the period of time, and out for me. At that time, the sector was not final for me. Like within development, there could be multiple things. It could be health, it could be education. Following your background, your choice, you can make that leap fully rewarding in terms of top class, in terms of their. I would say that people in this sector are more gifted than I would have met otherwise. Maybe I'm seeing the bright side more, but this is how I feel.
Nikhil,
Broadly,
let me
yeah.
just interrupt you. There are many times where we don't hear you at all. So let's try this. Let me put this on pause and you log out and log back in, and maybe it will be better. So we won't lose anything. Let's just put it on pause. You log out and log back in. Let's see if it improves. Okay, so it's on pause now. We are back with the recording. The connection is better now. Let's continue, Nikhil.
So I'm hoping I could communicate mostly of what I was saying, and the audio was not very disturbing and not discouraging at all to one who is listening. Uh, Assuming that, so moving forward, so what I was telling was the basic point of my starting into the sector. So this is how I got into the sector and started working here. What I was saying is that sector has multiple subsectors like healthcare, education, and even entrepreneurship or infrastructure, water, sanitation, multiple things. So whatever one is interested in, they can dive into. Each sector is equally rewarding in terms of people, in terms of job, kind of role, scale, level, variety in terms of um, if you're a teacher, still you could work in training people. So there's no shortage of skills being used in this sector. So if you are willing to exploit yourself to maximum, then this could be one good sector for us to look into.
Okay.
For me, I chose livelihood. Also, because I was greatly influenced by my first organization, Basics, and one tends to get more influence with the first one earlier, easily. So I got influenced with that, and more so with the idea which the founder of Basics, Mr. Vijay Majan, had seeded. So what he was talking at even at that time was that financial poverty is not an element of financial inclusion only. So if one has to work for poverty, one has to work for financial inclusion plus skill development plus other aspects. So one has to combine all the forces, and then a person can be, taken, or society or together could be taken out of the poverty. So this is broadly what I understood at the time, and this was also the reason why I trained myself not only into financial inclusion, but also in agribusiness, skill development, to say, and also entrepreneurship development in that area. Now, there are pros and cons of doing this. So one get to learn many things, but in the job market, the experience gets divided, and when there are tools of machine tools are being used for finding jobs, or job vacancies and all, it at times becomes difficult to showcase that level of experience in terms of years, or the length of experience becomes a bit shallow but more wide. But I chose to be more wide. But there are people who are equally successful having chosen one domain. So within poverty alleviation, there are people who have strayed into financial inclusion and done very well. In fact, it's always better, and I feel it's good and right thing to do. So that could also be taken as a path. But I felt for myself, I wanted to understand poverty in totality, So I work into different domains of it. Yeah, that's the broad sense of my story.
So where are you
Yes.
now? What are you doing?
So I've I okay, just talking about right now. I'm right now consulting one social organization or non-profit for who are working with farmers in developing the supply chain for them. So I'm helping. So this organization has a lot of farmers working with them, or FPOs as we call it, and I'm working with them to help them build the supply chain. Now, I've landed here because I have experience of working with farmers and with supply chain. With my previous company, I was a CEO of Synergy Technofin, and before that, I did my master's in public policy from LSE. So that's how I got into agri domain, and I feel for now for quite some time I feel like staying in agribusiness domain, and I want to work independently, helping different organizations to build capacities, because I think I've learned that I can share it with other people. Yeah.
Okay, so tell us about this supply chain for farmers. It's very intriguing.
Yeah. So that happens to be my favorite subject now. So this particular, if so, whenever we go to village or whenever we meet farmers, the first pain point that they mention is their inability to market or have a market of their produce, in the way it is sold to customers. So, having the understanding of the entire post harvest process through which good goes through is very important. And if it is given to farmers, they can move up the supply chain and start supplying goods which are ready for customers. Now, why farmers are not doing this already? One, because they don't have the linkage or training to do marketing or sorting of agriculture produce in the way it is sold. So this journey of produce to sales, if it is taught to farmers, they are better off in selling. Now we have multiple platforms. So India, after having developed fintech, is now very bullish on entrepreneurship, and there are platforms like Zoozle, like OnDC, like Misho. So all these platforms are very useful in um, developing channels of sales for anyone. Zoozle is a new platform, which is ONDC's government, but Zoozle is a new platform which could be used for selling goods by farmers, and they sell only made in India products. So that's one separate thing for Zoozle. It's not good or bad, but it makes it more easy for farmers to adopt, and for buyers to go and check. So buyers will be more sure of what is coming their way. So this is broadly what I'm trying to do with
Well, that's
this.
very exciting. It's actually the next stage beyond the FPOs. FPO is just an institution, but the FPO has to do something. What is it that they should do? That's what one of the things you are doing is to telling them that this is, and they can also purchase inputs. FPO can also purchase inputs cheaper, better, so on, but they can also market themselves. Okay, so that's great, wonderful. And Do you find it personally rewarding in terms of the impact? How do you find it?
Yes. So as you said, there are two aspects of FPO. One is input and other is output. So in terms of input, they are succeeding a bit. So FPOs are able to purchase, and if when we look at books of FPOs, we find 90% of their business, if not more, is of input, and they are not able to do output business. Um, that is the business of their produce uh, to the outside world as an FPO. So this happens to be a problem which remains unsolved, and so India has this a target of making 10,000 FPOs, and there are more schemes. So ultimately, it could be even 15,000 FPOs in coming time. So if we are going to meet that target, or even if not meet, but if we as a country going to move in that direction, where a lot of FPOs are to be formed, then this output question is to be solved. It is not solved yet, I would say, and it's a tough question which I've like thrown myself into. Uh, this is how I feel with my limited understanding. I'm sure many more people, thousands of people are trying to solve what I am trying to solve. But this is what I think the country needs.
Well,
So
this country certainly needs, if there are thousands, then that's perhaps what we need. Okay, because each problem is local and we need to fix it locally. We just cannot go in with a formula and say, here's the equation. It won't work. We need to be local. And I think what you're pointing out is the right thing. Not that I'm an expert, but you are. So I just want to hear from you. So thank you for telling us that. And anything else you want to add from your long experience?
yeah, this local thing I want to highlight more, because when we talk about agriculture and we talk about how to change the market, we have to localize it to a lot extent, which is not being done so far. So I have people in my team, or rather a team which I'm part of. So there are people with whom I'm working. They stay in villages. They are hardcore, very senior professionals, but they stay in villages for say 2 months, 3 months. Say, for example, trying to understand the supply chain of apples and what it takes to sell the apples. And then they live with the farmers. They live in the farmland, and the issues of apples in Himachal is very different from issues of apples in Kashmir. Kashmir produces multiple times more apples than Himachal. Uh, I just forgot what is the number, but
Yeah.
it's multiple times more. Um, so all these issues are so local, and their advantages are also local. Like for example, in Kashmir and in Himachal, they don't need a cold storage because
No.
they're already a cold place,
Yes.
right? So these are things which one has to stay there, understand, and then develop.
Okay.
So it is not something which will happen sitting um, in metros or big cities. Like even right now, I am in a small town in Karnataka near Bangalore. It is known as Mandya. This is why I've associated with a small a non-profit organization to work with. Because their connection with farmers have been like at least 15 years old.
Yeah.
So I'll have that leverage and ability to work with them,
Yeah.
understand their local needs, and then
Yeah.
find the solutions.
Yeah. Okay, it's indeed great. I think we should catch up with you sometime again to see what kind of success you have brought to those farmers, because this is really a very exciting and interesting development. And, you are talking fintech, ag tech, these things, and there are not many people who actually do these things. And it'll be great to hear from you. But in the meantime, is there anything else you want to add?
No, it was lovely speaking with you, Subodh, and I would love to elaborate on each point. If there is a point which is difficult to understand, I would want to we can have supplementary with facts.
Okay, right now I think there's
Yeah,
you are very clear and we understand
yeah.
what it is, but I'd just like to hear your experience on financial inclusion.
So financial inclusion is one thing which, at least in India, we have done, I would say, a lot better than most other sectors. And in fact, if you ask me, financial inclusion or fintech or this sector could be one which leads the learning for other domain. Like the learning of fintech in terms of reach could be leveraged for, say, example, edtech or edtech in education or even health tech. So we are struggling more in terms of other domains like health, but we have a lot of success in fintech already. So I'm sure there are a lot of things like, for example, how to reach, how to make something viable, how to make something more profitable. So all those questions could be learned from fintech world and could be implemented into other domains. Um, in terms of financial inclusion per se, um, uh, so there's this book from Abhijit, Poor Economics, for which he also got the Nobel. Uh, in that book, he has done a lot of research and put across in terms of what fintech or financial inclusion has done for the country. So his analysis is what we have always seen on the field. What is given in the book is what we see in the field all the time. Like, for example, he says that a poor man could be buying a television rather than sending school children to school. So the same money could be used in what we assume to be a non-productive investment, but could be a different thing for the population that we're working for. So that is a very critical insight, which essentially tells us that the population that we're working with should humble us down and should tell us that what we think need not be the priority of the people whom we are working with. So that, if I have to say one learning from the sector, that could be one.
Okay, well, thank you. I mean, but before we end, I just want to say, you have anything else to add? I'd love to hear it.
No, good speaking with you, Subodh. Nice
Okay.
meeting you.
So let's end it here. In terms of recording, I'll talk to you a little bit after the recording. Let's say bye to the viewers. I'll be back with another expert or a young person soon. Bye till then.